All right, today we're talking about a true industrial titan. I mean, a guy who took one single, bold idea and literally forged a global empire from it. We are, of course, talking about the visionary, the risk-taker, the undisputed king of steel, Lakshmi Mittal.
It's just an incredible story of ambition, right? But it really makes you wonder, how did he do it? How does one guy from a small town in India end up building the world's largest steel empire, taking on these centuries-old European giants? Well, that's what we're going to break down.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. And Mittal's story, it doesn't kick off in some fancy boardroom. Nope, it starts in a small town with some really early, hands-on lessons in the tough, gritty world of steel.
So Lakshmi Mittal was born way back in 1950 in a town called Sadulpur. His family eventually moved to Calcutta and, from a super young age, he was right there in the thick of his father's steel business. He wasn't just watching from the sidelines. He was learning the ropes, hands-on, the nitty-gritty of manufacturing and trade. And that early experience, it was basically the foundation for everything that came next.
But here's the thing. To become the global player he wanted to be, Mittal knew he couldn't just stick to the family's script. He needed a totally different strategy. A pivot, really, that was going to take him far, far from home and set him on this wild course for success. So back in the 70s, the business environment in India was, it was tough, super regulated. And for a guy like Mittal, it was incredibly frustrating. He saw all this potential, but he just felt like his hands were tied. So he made a huge decision. If the opportunities weren't going to come to him in India, then he was going to go out and find them, wherever they were in the world. And this is where you see a huge shift in his thinking. I mean, the traditional way, the family way, was to build new steel mills completely from scratch. That's a slow, super expensive process. But Mittal, he saw a different angle. He started looking at these struggling, undervalued mills overseas and saw something nobody else did. He didn't see failure. He saw a massive opportunity.
And this is key. It wasn't just about bargain hunting, buying up cheap factories. It was about being a kind of industrial artist. He had the vision and the skill to take these industrial ruins and turn them back into profitable powerhouses. This became his signature move, his whole MO.
So here's the core of his strategy, and it was pretty revolutionary at the time. He'd find a steel mill that was basically on its last legs, buy it, and then just relentlessly go in and fix it. We're talking major cost-cutting, boosting efficiency, everything needed to make it profitable again. He was literally creating value where everyone else just saw a write-off. And the speed at which he did this was just staggering. He kicked things off with his first plant in Indonesia in '76, and then for the next 20 years, he was on an absolute tear. Trinidad, Mexico, Kazakhstan, Romania, you name it. He was building this massive global footprint, one turnaround at a time, basically collecting the puzzle pieces of his future empire. Fast forward to 2004. After a big merger, his company, Mittal Steel, is officially the world's largest steel maker. You'd think that would be the pinnacle, right? But for a guy with his kind of ambition, just being number one, nah, that wasn't enough. He was about to make his biggest, most audacious move yet. All right, this is the moment that truly seals his legacy. The fight for Arcelor. This wasn't just another business deal. This was a clash of titans, a clash of cultures. It was a corporate drama that absolutely rocked the global establishment. So who was his target? Arcelor, a European giant. And we're not talking about another struggling mill here. Arcelor was a symbol of Europe's industrial power, deeply entrenched, part of the old guard. And frankly, they looked at Mittal as an outsider, an upstart. They had no idea what was about to hit them.
$33 billion. Just let that number sink in. That was the price tag on his bid to take over Arcelor, and this was not a friendly merger, not by a long shot. It was a controversial, aggressive move that sent total shockwaves through the financial world.
And just so we're all on the same page, let's talk about what hostile takeover actually means. It means the bosses at Arcelor wanted absolutely nothing to do with this deal. Zero. So what did Mittal do? He just went around them. He went straight to the people who really owned the company, the shareholders, and made his pitch directly to them. It was a high-stakes, high-risk power play.
And guess what? It worked. He won. The merger went through, creating the new supergiant ArcelorMittal, which just dominated the entire global steel industry. The battle was over, the deal was done, and Lakshmi Mittal was, without a shadow of a doubt, the king of steel. So, when the dust settles, what's the real legacy of a guy like this? I mean, it's about more than just the money or the tons of steel produced, right? It's about a unique style of leadership and an influence that goes way beyond the boardroom.
When you look at his leadership style, it's this really interesting mix. First, you've got this visionary risk-taking. The guy was not afraid to bet big. Then, there's his resilience. He managed to ride out the absolutely brutal ups and downs of the steel industry. And of course, his tactics were aggressive, sometimes controversial for sure, but everything was driven by this incredibly sharp global vision.
But beyond that tough-as-nails negotiator, there's another side to the story. People who know him say he has a surprisingly humble, down-to-earth attitude. He's also a serious philanthropist, founding places like the L&M Institute of Information Technology. He's really become this huge inspirational figure for entrepreneurs, not just in India, but all over the world.
Which kind of leaves us with one big question to chew on. In the world we live in today, with everything changing so fast, is Mittal's playbook, this strategy of bold, aggressive acquisition in heavy industry, is that still a timeless blueprint for success? Or was it something that was perfect for its time, maybe a relic of a bygone industrial era? It's definitely something to think about.